If you're watching this, then that means you're a weeb. Heavy is the week that we have gotten, and because it is heavy, let's start ASAP. This episode has to be the best so far in this series and is also the most engaging one to watch for a few reasons. We got an actual match, which is the mixed bag. It has the hype, but it's also funny when they use gunshot or cannon shot sound effects for spikes. Not that it ruins the immersion totally, but you can definitely notice it. Another reason why I like this episode is how we got more interactions with the other members of the team. And their coach, while still a mysterious old man to me, I can definitely tell he's hiding his genius for later. The only thing that baffles me is, if he really is a genius, how has the team haven't found out until now? I'll leave that question for you guys to think about. Finally, some good freaking characterization for Luto. Given their actions this episode, it's quite clear that they're at least receptive to Grand Edger and would most likely be a temporary ally for now. Other than that, I did not expect Arrow to be so stubborn and refuse to leave the wall. Eren sure does love hanging around walls. With Rensin now free from the chopping block, it's getting more and more unlikely that she'll be a future ally for our main cast. Which is a shame, but I still have a bit of hope that she'll come around once Shubi explains the situation someday. If you asked me to do a side-by-side comparison of episode 1 Tomozaki and today's Tomozaki, it would be like comparing night and day. Our boy has grown so much since the start of this series that I actually forgot that he wasn't like this back then. While Mimimi didn't win the election like I thought it would pan out, Tomozaki is right that we underestimated Hinami, and in this game we call life, she ain't going down easy. With a date with Fuka-chan already a certainty, I'm already counting the days to watch and play third wheel for these two. And one last thing. I don't like that last line before the ED played where Tomozaki mentioned about Mimimi not being herself the day after that last scene. I mean, what a cliffhanger, and screw the studio for doing that, seriously. Okay, so the introduction of a new OP and ED means we're entering the endgame now. I mean, it was quite telling given how the OP is screaming, "We're going overdrive with the drama now, boys." Other than that, while a few things happened in this episode, I'm going to hone in on Izumi because quite literally, her actions reminded me of that Avengers meme, and that is basically this episode summarized in a meme. Just when I thought we're absolutely winning with the Ishikawa and Sakura scenes, Yoshikawa's suffering from crippling depression, and I can't have that in my wholesome romance of the year. I really want Ishikawa and Sakura to get together, but never have I wished it that it would be at the expense of Yoshikawa. Cloverworks, please resolve this in a wholesome way. I don't want this issue to overstay in my romance anime. Thank you. Side characters aside, the OG is still good as ever. Like, every scene that they have is simply top notch that it feels like whenever we get a Horimiya scene, it's guaranteed to be good. And that post-credit scene? Damn. I knew Hori had a possessive streak, but that mark is something else. But I respect her for doing that. Not a lot of women are bold enough to be so insane to leave that big of a mark, you know. Did this episode just step on the accelerator and the end of Marius is nigh? Because given what has happened, it is now extremely likely that Marius will finally reveal herself as the missing Princess Marielle. And like I said last week, I find it to be a good bonus for us if the reveal happened way before this first core ends. Should that route actually happen next episode, then I think we can expect the long-awaited rebellion of Alfred to come into fruition quite soon. And that's the arc that I've been waiting for since the introduction of the Orthodox Church. Ah yes, the day off episode. The girls got their much needed rest from last week's debut and the unanimated performances that came after. Not a lot to say actually. They needed this chill time, and next episode is where we'll pick up what intensity they had from last week. Also, we got a special ED from Sunny Peace, so it's a nice change of pace from the usual ED. This episode is rather heavy, but because it is heavy, it is also, in effect, a juicy one. We finally got a good amount of info regarding Shiki's parents, and it's definitely ugly. While it's safe to assume that the uncle is scum, I'm still not completely sold that everything that he said was the real deal, because it could be possible that he's just using euphemism on some parts of his narrative to make it look less disgusting, which is the point of the good old-fashioned unreliable narrator. What we are sure is that when next week comes around, that pink lolly is definitely Shiki's little sister. But who is the father? As much as I hate it if it were real, it could be the uncle, which enters NTR territory to some degree. And I also have a feeling that Shiki's mother didn't consent for this, but the uncle made it look like it just to soften his inevitable death sentence. There's an issue that needs to be addressed in this episode, and that is the fact that there's a severe lack of Gainax poses from Eris in this episode. I think she only did it like 3 times, and that's dangerously low for our standard tsundere redhead. I can't say if it's because she's much calmer now, but I don't think that's it, Chief. In other news, the Grey Rats have undeniably professed their taste towards beast people, and I for one agree with their cultured choice of women. With another blessed Roxy appearance, I still wonder when Rudy and Roxy will see each other again and how they'll interact if they do. That figurine though, Rudy needs to realize he could go for a merchant speedrun and he'll be rich in no time. Just when we thought we're getting a calm and peaceful beach episode, the other side called again. A perfect example of the meme, can you not? For 5 minutes. Well, at least we got some good stitches from the girls. I'm guessing Reddit has it nice. Another thing, the sound really played it big this episode, and I love how it contributed to the storytelling. Like seriously, I'm not even playing the video at your typical 100% volume, actually just 70%, and it's still loud and ominous that you can definitely feel the tension the story wants you to feel. Two more things. The house they were staying at the first scene is definitely a Dragon Ball reference. And when I thought they'll never address the fact that they're spending way too much for two college students, Sorao addressed during the final scene that they're broke as hell. Thanks, Sorao. Very cool. Also, I'm going to miss Lady Hashaku's hat. That's a legendary artifact gone, used as a one-time escape rope. Quite a bummer. Pretty rough, if you ask me. At first, I thought Kearu would be the dude who won't let any villager die. But that was until I saw Villager get stabbed and he doesn't care. That's when I knew we're in for a treat this episode, and upon finding out that they're going to die anyway due to poison, our boy's more than justified to commit a massacre. At this point, I'm not sure why I watch Redo of Healer. Is it the sex? Is it the revenge story? Or is it because it's a generic fantasy show that it's easy to consume? Does the answer matter? Of course not. I'm not even sure what's the main reason for watching, but what I am sure is that I'm enjoying this, and that's what matters most. I'm gonna need all the water after this. Shit has hit the fan. The talent gap between Reki and Langa has been so wide that our red boy is left with nothing but a sense of hollowness that is so painful to experience. With this ever-growing rift between our best boys and a tournament arc coming up, I wonder how our talented director will write its resolution. But knowing her previous works, the chances are good, and hopefully by next episode, Reki can come to terms with this without the writing making it feel rushed or being disrespectful to people who experience long periods of depression like this. Yes, I'm taking a shot at Nijigasaki, as much as I don't mind Ayumi's abandonment issues being introduced as a plot point. How it was resolved there was disgustingly weak, and I hope the writing of Reki's resolution doesn't end up like her. I think I get the point now with Kumiko having a split personality, both narrative-wise and production-wise. Narratively, it makes perfect sense that she'll develop it as a coping mechanism as she develops further into madness. And with respect to production, the studio's having a field day giving Yuki Aoi quote-unquote multiple roles for the price of one VA contract, which is an absolute win for everyone. As for that fire type dude, if the Joker film taught us anything, it's never a good idea to take everything away from someone, because that's how you make villains. I mean, sure, he's on the road to being one, but really, they just accelerated the process up to 100%. Not that we care that much, but still an interesting development on the side. Okay, I'm designating this week as a Last Dungeon Boonies Appreciation Week. What I like most about this series is how simple it is and it doesn't try so hard to be entertaining. There's no complexity in the story, but the sequencing of the events and execution of whatever joke or gimmick at play turns out well for the most part. As for this episode, it's funny how it started with Lloyd leaving the cast, only for the entire cast to show up later in the same hotel. I mean, sure, it looks like mediocre writing, but if you ask me, while it was telepathically done and doesn't take too much to predict, it was served rather nicely, and for a show this simple, it's performing much better than it should. Also, Riho Best Girl. Anyone who disagrees, comment down below. I'm a heretic, and I deserve to be shunned by the public. I can't blame Nor for reacting the way he did after meeting Sarah for the very first time. Given Sarah's skill set, I don't think Nor is losing anything at all regardless of the result of this arc. Maybe his virginity, but knowing him, he'll happily give it away because as Emma puts it, he's a man whore. The dragon hunting sequence is quite literally a Monster Hunter reference, seeing that they went for the pitfall strat plus part priority to speedrun it. They're definitely at least high rank with their performance. As for Lola, boy, we're winning. We're absolutely winning here, and we need to see more of this escalating to such extreme lengths that, we need more of this. We need more. And just when we thought we'll get another Alice theater, Luna goes in for the steal, and we all know what happened here. They fricked, but because this ain't Redo Healer, they simply won't show it to us. But still, I'm waiting for the H version though, if it ever comes out. What is it with this week and heavy reveals? So we dug deep this week with Rika's issue. I have to say, this episode got me goosebumps the entire time. When Acha mentioned about quote-unquote losing another one, as Rika was so close to death, I knew for sure. The death flags are now set in place, and while we didn't lose Rika this episode, it doesn't guarantee that no one's going to die by the end of this series, at least until now. I don't have a lot to say nor to highlight in this episode, because what happened here needs not to be spliced, but be observed as the whole thing. And quite honestly, I was scared that we nearly lost Best Girl. It really was a relief that by the end of this episode, our girls are basically sisters for life now. And their group is something I'm not ready to see go down soon, even though we are under constant trend of it happening. Quite a heavy week for me. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and leave a comment down below if you have something to share or if you have any questions. I hope you have a good time wherever you are, stay safe, and see you guys next time.